Hello, all you colorful creators. In this video, we are seeking to answer the question, who was Vincent van Gogh? Now, you probably recognize some of his works, such as this one, and maybe even this one. But who really was Vincent van Gogh? That's exactly what we're trying to answer. First though, I have to let you in on a little secret. I'm not really an expert on Vincent van Gogh. I know, it's shocking, but I have done a little bit of research. And I encourage you, if you want to know more, do your own research as well, because there are a ton of differing opinions about this artist. So let's go ahead and dive into what I've discovered. Vincent van Gogh was born on March 30th, 1853 in the Netherlands, and he had 5 siblings, 2 brothers and 3 sisters. Something many people may not know, though, is that Vincent van Gogh was not the first Vincent van Gogh. His mother had a son born a year prior that was also named Vincent, that died at birth. The Vincent that we all recognize as an artistic great and post-impressionistic painter lived for only 37 years. And unlike many other very well-known artists, his career as an artist was only 10 years long. During those 10 years, he managed to create nearly 2,100 works of art, including 860 oil paintings and approximately 1,100 drawings. This is a huge body of work for such a short career, which shows his dedication to his craft. Before becoming an artist, Vincent began to work as an art dealer at the age of 16. His ability to speak 4 languages was greatly helpful in this profession, and aside from his career as an artist, this was his longest-lasting job. After being fired from his job as an art dealer, he had a few failed attempts at teaching, then had a desire to become a preacher like his father. But that never came to fruition because he lacked the patience and drive to complete the necessary studies. But this desire to be a preacher shows us that Vincent had a desire to spread a message, which he later did through his art. We can also see this desire to communicate through his art in this statement from him where he says, "I want to touch people with my art. I want them to say, he feels deeply, he feels tenderly." When Vincent decided to become an artist at the age of 27, he became dedicated to teaching himself to draw by reproducing master works, mostly drawing from other drawings. Next, he begins drawing from real life rather than just 2-dimensional prints. And as you can see, he drew a lot. In one of his many letters to his brother Theo, he says that he started signing his artworks with only his first name because he didn't like his last name being pronounced wrong, which I must admit I am guilty of doing. Sorry, Vincent. After working to master drawing for a time, Vincent begins painting more, but his works still remain quite dark and dreary, depicting nature, still lifes, peasant life, and portraits. This dark color palette causes me to wonder if he wasn't at some level communicating his clouded mental state. Throughout his life, Vincent van Gogh struggled with his mental health and he moved a lot, often unable to stay in one location for very long due to an inability to get along with those around him. The one person who seemed to tolerate him well was Vincent's younger brother Theo. In 1886, Vincent sets off to visit Theo in Paris, and the two share an apartment there. While in Paris, Vincent is exposed to many current works of art by impressionist artists of the time such as Monet, Degas, and Pissarro. Now you've heard me mention that big word impressionist or impressionism a few times so far. Let me shed a little light on what that means. Impressionism was a style of creating which originated with a group of Paris-based artists in the 1870s and 1880s. These artists abandoned the rules of academic painting and emphasized light, color, and everyday life, and conveying the impression or feeling that something created within them more than the accurate depiction of that object. They really sought to make the viewer of the work feel something when they looked at it, and to capture light and color. Vincent once said, "Instead of trying to reproduce exactly what I see before me, I make more arbitrary use of color to express myself more forcefully. Color expresses something by itself." He also said, "Real painters do not paint things as they are. They paint them as they themselves feel them to be." Vincent must have felt something after viewing all these amazing works of art, because after this point we see his paintings become full of color, and his energetic small brushstrokes and way of mark making also come to full force during this time. Unfortunately, being in Paris not only brought inspiration for Vincent, but alcoholism also began to take root as well, which was part of his reason for departing Paris after being there for about 2 years. Along with drinking too much, Vincent would often neglect his own physical health by spending all his money on art supplies, thus having no money for food and neglecting to eat. One of the things Vincent is probably most well known for is being the crazy artist who cut off his ear. Now, there are not a lot of concrete details surrounding this event, and it is even unknown if Vincent cut off his entire ear or just part. Either way, it was definitely weird, especially the part where he gave his severed ear as a gift to a woman afterwards. Gross. Sometime after the ear incident, Vincent took himself to a mental institution because of his struggles with hallucinations, blackouts, and anxiety, among other things, possibly like cutting off his ear. He was in this asylum for nearly a year, and during this time he painted and painted and painted. From his window at the asylum is where he painted the ever-famous Starry Night. In 1890, Vincent gets invited to exhibit some of his works at an artistic exhibition in Brussels, Germany. A few months later, he also exhibited 10 paintings in Paris. There was also an article published by a critic in 1890 praising Vincent as an artistic alchemist capable of transforming the mundane and turning it into something precious. This critic praised Vincent's awkwardness and called him a terrible, maddened genius. So, although Vincent only sold one painting while he was alive, which was The Red Vineyard, he wasn't completely unknown or unrecognized for his skill, though his widespread recognition and success did come after his death by a self-inflicted gunshot wound at the age of 37. His brother Theo died just 6 months later, and Theo's widow Johanna was responsible for selling and distributing a great deal of Vincent's work, which Theo inherited after Vincent's death. She was also largely responsible for spreading Vincent's story. Vincent van Gogh has some of the most recognizable artworks known around the world today. His life is a tale of many highs and lows, but we can all learn something from Vincent's determination. Once he decided he was going to be an artist, he pursued it wholeheartedly. If you'd like to learn to create a work of art inspired by Vincent van Gogh, visit our website by clicking the link in the description.